Hello everyone, and welcome to our video, or another video, of us pivoting once using the simplex method. Okay, so the directions were on the previous page where we're going to determine the pivot row and column, then we're going to pivot once, and then we'll read the solution from there. Okay, so I'm just going to put it to the side, pivot, row, and then column. All right, and with these, remember that doing the pivot row and the pivot column, this is first, but usually they still list row and then column, and then the row is second. The column is found by looking at your bottom row and seeing the most negative entry. So I see it. It's negative 15 is the most negative. So that means column 2 is the column that we will be pivoting. And then looking at all of my other elements in column 2, I'm going to take my constant and divide by those column 2 elements. So we have 300 divided by 5. And even here, let me just go ahead and do a dot around it so I can see it. I'll need to rewrite it anyway because this is kind of small for what we'll need in the next step. But we have 300 divided by 5 is 60. Then we have 600 divided by 10. That's also 60. And then 350 divided by 1. Well, that's 350, so that's the biggest. Okay, so here we've got a tie. So usually with the tie, we just go with the first one that we would have seen, which is the highest one. Okay, so we will go ahead and just pivot row 1. Okay, so that's usually what I do. If you did say pivot row 2, I mean, you kind of could, but this is the more common method. Okay, so the one that is top is the one that is by default. Okay, so that's it. There's our pivot row and pivot column. And then now we will need to do the pivoting. Let's go ahead and set everything up. Okay, so I'm just copying it. And I wrote that column first to make sure I would have enough space. Okay, so it looks something like this. And remember, that's our constant. They usually don't label the constant, though, in these problems. Okay, so, and then now I've got, okay, so 2, 5, 2, 1, 0, 0, 0, and then 300. Then we've got 6, 10, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 600. We have 3, 1, 4, 0, 0, 1, 0, 350. And then negative 2, negative 15, negative 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0. Okay, and then with all that rewriting, just be extra careful that everything was written correctly and is in the right spot. I believe it is. I'm looking at it. It looks like it's good. All right, and then now we need to do the pivot. All right, so we said that the pivot row, I didn't mark it. Let's go ahead and mark it now. Let me use it a highlighter. So we're saying we're pivoting row 1 and column 2. So this was our pivot element, or this is the pivot element, the 5, which means that this here needs to become 0, this here needs to become 0, and this here needs to become 0. All right, so that's where we'll set up our other matrix. So, and you can kind of do these in different orders, but let's go ahead and set up. So I've got x1, x2, x3, s1, s2, s3, z, and then our constant. And the row that's getting pivoted will stay the same. So 2, 5, 2, 1, 0, 0, 0, 300. And then all the elements that are in that column should become 0. All other elements, so not the 5. So we need that to eventually be 0, that to be 0, and that to be 0. So I'm just kind of using my placeholders here for now. Okay, but to make that happen, we need to use row operations with this pivot row. So all 3 of these row operations in these 3 rows will involve row 1 in some way. All right, and so let's figure out the best equations to help us get there. So for instance, I want to do row 2 will become. So it's currently 10. Well, that's nice. If I multiply the top one by 2 and subtract, so we'll do row 2 minus 2 row 1. That should make that 0. So 10 minus 10 is 0. Yep.
And then at this point, I'm going to carry out that row operation on this row directly below. All right, so let's go through it. We're saying row 2 minus 2 of the row 1s. Okay, so that means 6 minus 2 times 2 is 4. So 6 minus 4 would be 2. We already did the 0. Row 2, so 1 minus 2 times 2 would be 1 minus 4. So that'd be negative 3. And then we have 0 minus 2. That would be negative 2. Then we have 1 minus 2 times 0. So really just 1 minus 0 is 1. Here they're both 0, so that will automatically be 0. Here they're also both 0, so that's 0. And then we've got row 2, so 600 minus 2 of those row 1s, which would be 600. So 600 minus 600 is, oops, I was going to write 0, 0, 0. We don't need that, just 0. So 600 minus 2 times 300 is 600 minus 600 is 0. Okay, so there's that. All right, now let's set up our other ones. Okay, so I need row 3 to become 0. That element needs to become 0 based on using row 1. All right, well, it looks like if we multiply row 3 by 5, then subtract from row 1, that would make it happen. Okay, because 5 times 1 is 5, minus 5 is 0. And then now I just need to make sure I do it to every single element in this. Okay, so we've got, so following along, so we're doing this times 5, so 5 row 3, and we do want to be careful. So currently I'm looking at these two rows. I'm just kind of trying to connect it so I'm not looking at the wrong thing. Okay, so I've got 5 times 3 is 15, minus 2 would be 13. And then we already did that. Double check. 5 minus 5 is 0, okay. 4 times 5 is 20, minus 2 would be 18. And then we've got 5 times 0 is 0, minus 1 would be negative 1. Moving along, 5 times 0 is 0, minus 0 is still 0. 5 times 1 would be 5, minus 0 would be 5. 5 times 0 minus 0 is 0. And then 5 times 350, okay, I don't know what that is off the top of my head. So here's where I need some actual, so here's my scratch work for that. 5 times 350 minus 300 would give us that answer. Okay, so let me use my calculator real quick here. Nope, the whole thing went away. There we go. Okay, so, whoop, where did my calculator go? Okay, so 5 times 350 minus 300, 1,450. Okay, so that's that one, 1,450. So this is the first time I've done scratch work. So usually I try to just break it down into words, and I hope that's been working because, I mean, if we were to do scratch work with all of these, it would get crazy. So that's why I just only do it when absolutely necessary. So just say it out loud in words. I think that is the best and easiest way to get moving with these problems. It might take a little bit of time to get used to, but you got it. Okay, so now that this row's set, it's good. One more time. We have the fourth row. All right, so this negative 15 needs to become 0 using this row 1 element. So it looks like we could just do this row 4, add 3 row 1s to it. Because negative 15 times 3 times 5 is 15. So we'd have negative 15 plus 15 is 0. Okay, so it looks like it matches. And then again, now we want to make sure we're doing everything. So I did the dotted. Let me erase that. Now my focus is this row with this row. Okay, so I'm trying to blur out the middle rows. Okay, so we've got negative 2 plus 3 times 2. So that'd be negative 2 plus 6 is positive 4. And then just to double check, negative 15 plus 15 is 0. Moving on, we have negative 1 plus 3 times 2 is 6. So that would be 5. Negative 1 plus 6 is 5. Moving on, the next one we've got 0 plus 3 times 1 would be 3. 0 plus 3 times 0 is 0. And then our next column, we've got 0 plus 0 again is 0. And then this one, we've got 1 plus 3 times 0, that's still 0. Well, so 1 plus 0 is 1. And then we have 0 plus 3 times 300 would be 900. Okay, so there's all of it. And then from there, I hope we got it right. Now, my biggest tip for if something is wrong in this, which we would figure out based on the answer, like in the homework, it would tell you, it's probably best to just cross the whole thing out and come back to it later. Because, I mean, I don't think there's really any legit way to find the mistake quickly in this big old thing. So it's probably best to just scratch it out, take a break, come back to it some other time, and hopefully you have it correct the next time. Okay, because if you know the process, well, any mistake is just some accidental arithmetic, which happens to everyone. So it's not the biggest deal. You just have to retry. All right, but this is our pivoted simplex tabla, and from here we will read the solution. So I'm going to go through it, kind of like I've done in the past, where I look at, okay, so the column with only one non-zero, so that's this one. And moving on, this one also has one non-zero. This one also has one non-zero, and then this one also has one non-zero. And those are it. And so that means we just use the coefficient, attach it back to the variable. So we have 5x2 equals the far right constant. And then from here, we can solve them. Most of the time, they're not too bad. So that would be 60. Okay, and then we'll skip those other ones for now. This S2, so we have one S2, or just S2, instantly equals the far right constant, which is 0. Okay, so and that's already solved for. We have 5S3. 5S3 equals 1,450. And then from there, I'm going to cloud it. I don't know that answer right away. I already have 1450 in here, so let's divide that by 5. So it's 290. Okay, so we got S3 is 290. And then this last one, 1Z equals 900. So Z equals 900 is already solved for. Nice. Okay, and then these other ones, these are all non-zeros. So if there's more than one non-zero, then instantly those variables are just set right away to 0. So instantly x1 equals 0, x3 equals 0, s1 equals 0. So it doesn't matter what these numbers are once they're non-zeros. It's just instantly these are solved for. And there we go. Okay, so we have it. So we did the pivot. We have the answers. And then just to put it in order, we've got x1 is 0. We have x2 over there was 60. x3 is 0. s1 is 0. s2 was also 0. s3 over there is 290. And then our z is 900. So that's all the variables set equal to something. There we go. And just scroll. There we go. Okay, so that's it. So there's our process. That's one pivot. Now, if any of these, this bottom row, if they're saying solve all the way, so we only pivoted once. This problem, we only needed one pivot to get these answers. That would be done. If they did say solve all the way, make sure that this row, so we would have to pivot again, so we start the process over, if the bottom row had any non-negatives. Or if bottom row had any negatives. Okay, so that's if they say solve this whole thing, like the very first problem we did in the very first video. This one right here. So with this we solved all the way and we had to pivot multiple times. So we start off with the worst case scenario, just to show what we're getting into. Okay, so but often you pivot once and you might be done. If they're being nice enough, you might be done. Okay, if they're being mean, well, then we got to pivot again. Okay, so that's that. In the next video, so just as a heads up, the next video we will do the whole thing with some other random problem. So one page, hopefully we'll do it. Again, if you wanted to try it out, if you're saying, hey, I think I got this, maybe try it and fast forward this next video to the final answer and see if you got it. And if you didn't, well, then I would say, all right, well, maybe watch that video again and see what the mistake was or whatever. Okay, so thanks for watching. If you do have questions, let me know, and I'll see you again soon.